Well, welcome in right now here to the Cadence Weather Center live. We're paying attention right now to a severe weather threat continuing over here in the Ohio Valley and parts of the Midwest. Over here, we have several tornado warnings right now active. Right now, that is including Rockford, Janesville, and over here that is heading right for Aurora right now. We want to keep an eye out on these storms really quickly here because this is a very, very big and dangerous weather threat as we continue on throughout the rest of the night here. As we're continuing to pay attention to this, Chicago, you are under that tornado watch as well. As last night we saw, a tornado warning actually go through your area. No tornado was reported on the ground, so that was at least some type of good news right there. But we still have 5 hours until this tornado watch does expire here for these areas right now. So want to keep an eye out on some of these storms really quickly here, as we're going to start seeing some of these big storms here with the big gust fronts here reaching up to possibly 80-mile-an-hour storms here. So let me just keep an eye on this. So let's get rid of the tornado watch right now for, oopsies. Let's get rid of the tornado watch right now. So let's head right now into some tornado warnings here. We have 4 tornado warnings active right now. Let's go to the Rock, Wisconsin one. This is the one all the way up here to the north. We're just going to continue to pay attention to this one very, very closely here. So there's that tornado right there. Radar indicated this tornado. The velocity signature, you can clearly see maybe a little bit of rotation sitting right in there. A very broad type of rotation. So no storm really. This one isn't too organized, but we're going to keep an eye out on that anyways, just in case if anything continues to happen. Rockford, you're under a tornado warning right now, and we're going to keep an eye out on your tornado as well if there is anything. 0 inches in hail in diameter is what we're expecting. Probably not a big hail threat going on throughout the night, but this is probably where we have possible 2 rotations continuing on. So we have one down over here just west of I-39, and then this one right over here, a little bit more broad over here, that is just west of New Milford. So these storms are going to continue to move off to the east, I believe. Keeping an eye, moving off to the east at 45. So let's time these storms out right now. Let's time these storms out really quickly here. So if we move it off to the east here at 45 miles an hour. Oopsies, I don't know what is going on, why this thing's not working. Time it off to the east here, 45 miles an hour. You can clearly see 29,000 people are in this path of the storm right now. So let's keep an eye out on that very, very closely. So if you are in this area, you need to be paying attention to these storms right now. So please be taking cover immediately if you are in several. If you are getting under a tornado warning at all, throughout the rest of the night, because this is not even if you're under a severe thunderstorm warning, we want to keep an eye out on some of these storms as well, as it is getting very intense, and then watching that potential rotation as well down there. The winds are getting up to possibly 80-90 mile an hour winds later on tonight. We could be seeing a little bit of that. Let's head down to these tornado warnings right here. Davenport was under a tornado warning a little bit earlier, now out of the storm. This was the same storm that went through Davenport right here. You can clearly see this is a very, very tight, interesting storm right here. There could be a little bit of an inflow notch right there. That could be where the tornado is, and let's take a look here. And if we circle that right here on the map, let's pay attention to see if that is where that velocity signature is bringing us. And yep, there it is. So very, very tight couplet here. A very tight storm that we could possibly be looking at right here. This storm could be potentially pushing off to the east here at 45, I believe. Reaching off at 45, no, east at 50 miles an hour here. So this storm's moving very, very pretty good speed here that we're going to keep an eye out on. This is going to continue to move off to the east here at 50 miles an hour. So as this is continuing right now to move off to the east at 50 miles an hour, this does include a couple interstates here. So Interstate 80 just going to go south of you for right now, but 54,000 people are in the path of the storm right now. So we want to keep an eye out on that. If you are in Nippon set, 12 minutes here. Sheffield 16 minutes, Buda in 19 minutes. We want to keep an eye out on this storm as it's going to continue to push off to the east here. So let's keep an eye out on that storm very, very closely here, as that could potentially pose a big threat here. And then we have this tornado warning right down here to the south here that does almost include Aurora over here. No clear rotation in this area, really a big wind gust front here. And if we take a look here at what we're dealing with, we're actually reaching up to possibly 80-mile-an-hour winds with this storm here. 70-80 mile an hour winds are with this storm, so considerable threat for this storm. So we're going to continue to see that as we go on throughout the rest of the night. Chicago, you're going to see some storms as well continue in your area right now, so we're going to keep an eye out on that very, very closely here. as we're going to continue to pay attention to several storms as we are speaking right now. A lot of live coverage is going to be continuing on throughout the night here. I'm going to be with you for a couple of hours as we're going to continue to pay attention to some of these storms, that is going to continue to move off right now. So Rockford's still under that tornado warning that we're going to keep an eye out on very closely here. Chicago, you're back in that severe weather threat from going into tonight once again. So if you are in Chicago, please be making sure you're prepared once again as we continue to see this. That big wind gust. This could be worse than yesterday here that we want to keep an eye out on very, very closely. Trying to get everything working here. So as we're continuing to pay attention to some of these storms here, we're going to keep an eye out on some of this. And if you are just joining in here, if you have any questions, leave it down here in the chat below here, as we're going to continue to pay attention to these storms very, very closely here. Very, very large storms are going to continue, and we have a brand new tornado warning that has now just been issued right over here. So let's get into this. This is including DeKalb over here. We can clearly see this possibility for a big storm to potentially be here. Heading into this really quickly here. There it is. So this storm, does have 36 more minutes remaining. The storm is just arriving right now. You can clearly see, I would say, probably that biggest rotation sitting right in this region right here. Going to continue to push off to that east. So very, very, strong storm is headed off. So these are going to be some strong storms. And even though we're having some very strong winds right now, most likely it's going to be really just a big wind threat. So that's why if you are under a severe thunderstorm warning, you need to get into your safe place anyways, as this is getting very, very intense as we continue to watch this storm very, very closely. So once again, we're going to stay live here, but as you can see, Rockford's still under that, and we're also watching Aurora over here, possibly going to be under a tornado warning pretty shortly here. Depending on how the storm looks, we could be seeing a little bit of a tornado warning form in that region that we're going to have to keep an eye out on, but lots of wind and just lots of wind is going to be happening. So really our wind and tornado threat is going on throughout the night here. Let's get out of this thing right there here. So I want to head into the models really quickly here for the future radar. Let's take a look here at what we're dealing with. So, according to this future radar here at 9 p.m. here, that's what we're at. So let's head into the next hour. 10 p.m. tonight, we can clearly see some of these storms. It seems like it's a little bit delayed here, so maybe we'll head into 11 to see. This will most likely be 10 p.m. Still lots of storms heading into Chicago around maybe 10 p.m. tonight. We could definitely see some interesting situation right in this region as well. Very, very strong winds, could be up to 80 to 90 mile an hour wind gust in certain parts of these areas. So want to keep an eye out on that. Reaching up into around 1 a.m., you can see the storms that are over here right now are going to be gone by the time it gets there, but then you can take a look at this region right here. This is where we're going to see majority of that wind right in there, and definitely possible some spin ups here that could possibly form at any second here as it continues on throughout the state of Indiana, and then it will continue on over the next couple of hours heading into early tomorrow morning. We could see a little bit more of a interesting situation as we continue to see this. Detroit, you could really get hammered around 4 a.m. tomorrow morning, and then Illinois, you could definitely see this, especially into Missouri and parts of Indiana. So a little bit of, some big storms are going to be continuing on throughout the next couple of hours here. But even though we're not even seeing some of these storms, reaching to with a tornado on the ground, we're still seeing major winds that we're going to continue on right now. If we go over here to Chicago, nothing is expected in Chicago right now. There is no winds in Chicago. No winds in Chicago right now as we are talking right now. Rockford right now, as you can see, is now under a flash flood warning that has now just been issued right now. So lots of heavy amounts of rainfall here is falling. And if we take a look here at the digital accumulation array, let's see here. Trying to see if it's everything is a little bit. There we go. So it seems like for the flash flood warning, majority of that rain is off to the west here for the past hour. So a little bit to be paying attention to as we're going to go on throughout that rest of the day, though, because we still have lots of rain just right behind it that's going to continue to push in and into Rockford over here. So continue to pay attention to a lot of these storms as we're going to continue on throughout the night. Very big gust front right before these storms start to come. So if you are driving on Interstate U80 right now, we have all this. Chicago needs to start preparing and getting ready. Interstate 74 heading into Galesburg. You guys are definitely getting hammered with some strong winds that we could be definitely anticipating that could form right now. So let's keep an eye out on some of this because the winds could get very strong and intense in certain areas here. So we're going to keep an eye out on some of these storms really closely, especially if it heads over the interstate. So if you were just joining in still, please be making sure you're leaving any questions in the comments or anything. And we're going to keep an eye out on some of these major storms that we're going to pay attention to as they continue to push off to the east here. We can clearly see over the next couple of hours, these storms will push off to the east. So Chicago definitely could be getting something over here in the next couple of hours, and I'll be here tracking it live with you as well. So we're continuing to watch several tornado warnings continuing on right now. Rockford, eastern part of you is still under a tornado warning as we speak. Keeping an eye out on that tornado warning as we are talking right now, actually. I'm trying to click on the radar. There we go. So a little bit more, we could definitely see if we head into the velocity signature. Definitely very broad of a rotation, I would say, sitting probably more in this region right here. Very broad rotation. Getting ready to cross possibly over I-39, heading over to 39 and 90. We could be seeing a little bit of that rotation sitting right over that and pushing off to the east here. So I want to continue to pay attention to that as we continue on throughout the next couple of hours. But notice that, you know, even though we have this big storm right here with the big gust, we're having several tornado warnings right now continue on in these areas. And if this continues to stay strong, Chicago, you could be getting some very big storms here in the next couple of hours around maybe 11 o'clock Eastern time here, 10 Central. Want to keep an eye out on that very closely here. And then let's head over here, down over here. This is really intense storms that we're seeing right now. We can clearly see tornado warning is still up for some of these areas. I don't know why it keeps going to 100 frames. There we go. But the velocity signatures that we're definitely seeing, look at this tornado right here that we possibly could be seeing. Look at this rotation sitting in right in this region right here. Very nice tight broad type rotation though. Still a little bit of tight rotation sitting in this as these storms are going to continue to push off to the east. And also, depending on how strong of storm we see with this, could potentially put another tornado warning over here in Aurora. But no matter what, we're going to see possibly 80-mile-an-hour winds with this storm. So we're going to continue to pay attention to some of these storms. Let's head back into the future radar really quickly here, because I think that's going to be our one thing that we really want to pay attention to tonight. So as we're paying attention to some of these storms continuing on throughout the rest of the night here, heading into around... Let's move this off of whoopsies, there we go. Heading into around maybe 11 p.m. This is what we're going to see probably around 11 p.m. We can clearly see big gust front still continuing on. Bloomington could be next. In Bloomington, Illinois, we could be seeing some interesting situation over there. Chicago, 11 p.m. tonight, we could be seeing some very dangerous winds and strong storms continuing. And same with these pink areas. If you see these pink areas, that is some very strong winds and some possible tornadoes that could form in that region. But that blue is even worse than the pink. So please be making sure as these storms continue to push off to the east here. Going into midnight hours, going into 1 a.m. here, we can see a big difference as we see this area right here. Still a big gust front heading into middle of Indiana over here. Indianapolis could be definitely dealing with something as we go on through around 2 to 3 a.m. Possibly going into 4 a.m. But there's a big area right here. This is going to be our main area. But even though we have these storms that are, you know, going to be gone and for this area, look at this. We still have a little bit of storms that are trying to form itself over here. That could anticipate some possible tornadic storms that could form over the night in that area right there. And then if we head on over here into about 4 a.m., 3 to 4 a.m., Detroit could really be seeing some very dangerous storms. And then over here, same with Indianapolis and Bloomington, and continues to see this in Springfield all the way through Illinois into parts of Missouri here. So we want to keep an eye out on some of these storms really closely here as we go on throughout the night. We're going to take a look at a couple of those radar runs here. But right now, continuing to pay attention to several storms that are continuing on right now. Chicago, you're kind of in a big bubble right now. So not much going on right now as we're talking for Chicago. But Chicago definitely could be getting something here in the future. So I want to keep an eye out on that really closely here. So we're going to keep an eye out on some of these storms right now. lot to be paying attention to as we go on throughout the night. Tornado watch, let's take a look at that once again here. So here is that tornado watch that we're paying attention to very closely here. And as you can clearly see with the tornado watch, we're going to continue to watch this tornado watch very, and we have a brand new tornado warning. We'll get to that one right here in a second here. But look at this. Tornado watch is continuing all the way over here for parts of western Michigan, stretching into parts of northwestern Indiana, going into majority of Illinois here in the northern part, and parts of eastern Iowa, reaching into just the really most southern part of Wisconsin. Seeing very strong storms going to be anticipated over here in the next couple of hours for Chicago. And that's definitely our big city that we're going to pay attention to. 4 hours, 42 more minutes remaining in this tornado warning, or tornado watch, I'm sorry, and then we want to keep an eye out on this very closely. Let's get to that brand new tornado warning actually and see what we're dealing with here. See what we're dealing with this tornado warning right here. Look at that. So this is an interesting one. This is still a radar indicated tornado. You know, the thing is with this tornado is we've seen definitely some tight rotation with this storm, very strong winds that we've been seeing kind of in this little bubble right here. So this is the bubble that we're keeping an eye out on right there. That's the bubble we're going to keep an eye out on a little bit closely with the velocity signature. It seems like we're having a little bit of issue with this radar here. So let me take a look here if we scoot over to maybe this radar. Yeah, so you can clearly see you could be having a little bit of something sitting right in this rotation right here as this is going to continue to push off to the east. Want to keep an eye out on that as this could cross over Interstate 39 here in a couple of probably around the next 10 to 15 minutes. The storm is moving at 50 miles an hour to the east. So if you live over, or if you're driving on Interstate 39, please be making sure you are pulling over and staying safe from that storm right now. And breaking right now, actually, we do have a tornado warning that has now just been observed. We have an observed tagged on this one just west of Aurora right now. We have a possibility for a very dangerous storm right now. A velocity signature, I would say, right here is that tornado. Right now here possibly with this storm. We could be seeing possible rotation sitting right in there as this is going to continue to push down. So Aurora, we could be seeing a potential dangerous storm right now headed for you as there is a tornado on the ground. We're going to hope that we don't see anything necessarily form and possibly head through the city. We're going to keep an eye out on that very closely, but Aurora definitely could be watching a possible tornado warning here in the next couple of hours, or the next couple of minutes actually, because this does have a tornadic storm that is continuing and it is on the ground here and it has an observed tag on that. So I want to keep an eye out on that storm very closely here. So let's keep an eye out on that very closely as this is an observed tornado right now on the ground. We're going to keep an eye out on some of these storms as we're going to continue to push on. But the question is, you know, Aurora, should you be getting ready for a big storm? Yes, you absolutely should, because Aurora, you need to be keeping an eye out on some of these storms really closely, as we could be reaching up to 80 to 90 mile an hour wind gusts possible with this storm here. So keeping an eye out on this right now is very big concern. Please be making sure, if you're also driving on the roads, please make sure you pull over into a sturdy building or anything to make you feel more safe at the moment. Continuing to pay attention to this. So as we're continuing to pay attention to some of these storms here, as we are starting to get closer and closer, as we're starting to see some severe thunderstorm warnings get closer and closer to the Chicago area, we're going to keep an eye out on these storms as they're going to potentially just continue on over here the next couple of hours. You can see we have 53 minutes remaining for these, so probably in the next hour we could have Chicago under another severe thunderstorm warning. Same with yesterday, could be seeing something like that. Cedar Rapids actually right now under flash flood warning. We'll get to the flash flood warnings here in a little bit. Waiting to see if there's any updates coming in from the tornado warnings here. Still lots and several tornado warnings still continuing on. that we're continuing to pay attention to. So, but I want to pay attention to this storm really down here. This is my main focus right now, is this specific storm here, because this is a pretty dangerous storm that we're continuing to pay attention to. Is this radar not working? There we go. That is potentially headed right for Aurora here. The velocity signature, this velocity is not showing a good amount of velocity there, but we're going to keep an eye out on this, because no matter what, I would say we're going to reach probably 70-mile-an-hour winds with this storm here heading for Aurora. So in the next update here, could we see a possible tornado warning here for the city? We'll have to definitely keep an eye out on that, and if we do not, then that will be great news. But definitely a severe thunderstorm warning definitely could be posted with that storm very, very closely here. Then we have a little bit of a storm that's also going to be continuing to move over here to Chicago. We're getting close and close to Chicago. Keeping an eye on that. We have these tornado warnings over here that are starting to get ready to expire, except for that one. So let's get to that one really quickly here. Velocity signature. Seems like we could possibly be seeing two rotations sitting in right there. So maybe a little small type of rotation there and a little bit of one right here to be paying attention to right now. So we're going to keep an eye out on some of these storms right now, as we're going to continue to pay attention to these storms as they continue to get closer and closer to the Chicago area. So the good news right now is that these storms right over here have not had really any tornadic storms with it, just really the gusty winds, and that will most likely be the ones that head into the Chicago metro area over here in the next couple of hours. I want to keep an eye out on that very, very closely here. This is getting very intense here. Very, very intense storms that are being anticipated here. So continuing to pay attention to some of these storms, as you know, we're gonna have very, very big issues for the night here, I think, with the wind threat. Really, the wind is our biggest problem as we go on throughout the night here. We're going to see these storms continue to push off over here to the east here. Very strong storms are going to push off to the east here, so please be making sure you are paying attention to these storms if you live in Chicago and, you know, several of these cities really. Aurora right now is our main focus due to a tornado that is actually on the ground to its west here, northwest, but you know, I haven't seen any update here for another tornado warning for the city. Haven't seen any big storms headed for the city exactly. So if we keep an eye out on some of these storms right here, we could see a little bit of spin-ups with these line of thunderstorms. That's why we're seeing a couple of these tornado warnings here. If we just keep an eye out on that. Whoopsies. So continuing to watch these storms as they continue to push off over here to the east here. Aurora still watching you very, very closely if you have any possible storms headed for your direction. Does not seem like we have any possible areas that could be a big threat for you for a possible tornado, as that tornado is not looking as strong on the velocity signature right now, but you know, could we see another tornado warning form here in the next 4 minutes? You know, right now it's seeming unlikely here by the National Weather Service, but you know, I know the National Weather Service is not like putting big cities right now actually under tornado warning, so I can understand why they would really hold back on it. But Chicago, you in the next couple of hours are going to be dealing with some big storms over here in the next couple of hours. Still continue to pay attention to some of these tornado warnings right now. I'm going to keep an eye out on some of these right now, so I want to keep an eye out on some of these areas really quickly here, trying to figure out if we have any big things going on right now with this. Chicago's still very, very quiet here. You know, yesterday with Chicago, we had a tornado warning go through there. It wasn't an observed tornado, which is good. Could definitely see something possibly Here, let me see if I could pull this up really quickly here. So there is a storm chaser right now here. Trying to, never mind, hold on. It's having a little bit of issues here. Keeping an eye out on this storm really quickly here. Especially if you're driving on these interstates, we want to keep an eye on some of these interstates as well, because we could be definitely seeing some big problems as we go on throughout the night. With, you know, especially nighttime tornadoes could definitely really be scary. That is the ones that are definitely very, very scary here. See if we can figure out where they're. Here we go. So right now, actually going to go into this very closely here. It seems like we're having a little bit of issues. There we go. So this is a storm chaser here. Freddy right here, we can clearly see. So let me pull it up onto the screen really quickly here for whoopsies, that does not want to work. Hold on. So head over here to Severe Studios. We actually can clearly see this is Freddy right here that we're paying attention to. So Freddy on SevereStudios.com, we're seeing a little bit of, you know, he's driving through some storms right now, and you can kind of see where probably some big winds here is going to continue on right now. As we want to keep an eye out on this area right here, or with the storm. Nope, now he's having to stop for a train, but, you know, definitely some big storms here, and he's actually outside of this storm, so that's at least some good news. But I'm going to keep an eye out on that really closely here. We're going to keep an eye on him. He's right outside that, you know, he's just right outside of it, so I want to keep an eye out on that. But once again, let's get into this update here. We have a tornado possible here for Aurora right now. We have that tornado possible. No tornado warning has been issued for Aurora, but right now the city needs to be ready to go, because we do have a very, very large storm continuing to push off to your area. And if we headed back into the velocity signature right now, not showing too much here, but definitely some very, very strong winds are headed right now towards the city here. We could be reaching very, very strong amount of winds here reaching into the city. So we want to keep an eye out on that very, very closely, as we're going to keep an eye out on Aurora over here with very, very strong winds. Tornado warning still continues on up here for this storm right here. This is just south of I-80, Interstate 80. Here we have a little bit of a velocity signature on this storm. Let's see if we can head over to this radar really quickly here. Yeah, so we've been seeing a little bit of something in this storm right here. Possibly something right here. I would say that's where our best signature of rotation is, sitting right in there. Want to keep an eye out on that. As mostly of all of these storms are right now headed off to the east here. Then we have this storm right here. Radar indicated this storm with the tornado. Very, very large storm. This one probably will be starting to expire eventually here, but definitely a couple broad areas where we could be seeing a little bit of rotation, and I would point them out. So this area right here, and possibly a little bit up here, we could be seeing a little bit of rotation off to the north here, and this is just crossing over some of these State Route 72 or Highway 72 over here. So I want to keep an eye out on that very closely as these storms are continuing to push off to the east. So even though, you know, we're starting to see less and less tornado warnings, we're going to continue to see this also for the Chicago metro area. Overnight, we're going to see Indianapolis continue to pay attention to some of these storms right now. So I want to keep an eye out on some of these areas here, and especially if we head into the models. So let's head into the models really quickly here. So taking a look here at the model. So this is the next couple of hours. We're going to reach into 12 p.m. So let's start off at 11 p.m. We're going to see some of those storms start to form over here in parts of Chicago. The future radar here is anticipating possible northern, we have more of a northern type of storm over here, just north of the Chicago metro area, the strongest parts of the storm. But that might not be here. Might not be too big. We have a brand new tornado warning here. I can see we're getting an alert here. Brand new tornado warning in that area. We'll get to it in a second here. But there you go. So Chicago, 11 p.m. This is what we could be anticipating for your area here. You could clearly see majority of that storm is in the northern part of the city. That could be definitely something to be paying attention to. And as we continue on throughout the next couple of hours, so this will be a very, very big system as we continue to watch. This pink and blue area really could be very, very intense with some of these storms here. So we want to keep an eye out on that very closely here. Let's head back into the brand new tornado warning that has now just been issued. Right here, this is from this tornadic storm that is right off here to the west, Interstate 90. This is who you are including. It does seem like, I'm not seeing too much of it. Really just seems like a broad rotation, but National Weather Service is wanting to keep an eye on it very, very closely here as the storm continues to push off to the east here. But once again, Chicago, the next couple of hours, you're going to be getting hit in the next couple of hours here. And then we head on down here, Aurora. Storm is right on your doorstep for the main metro area right now. So very, very big area. Very, very strong winds right now approaching the Aurora area. Get back into this radar here. So Aurora right now, please be paying attention to that. There we go. So Aurora, please be paying attention to it really right now as it's getting very, very intense right now. And I want to pull up someone else right now from Severe Studios right here. So let me pull this up right now for you. This is Nick. So Nick right now, look at this storm right here that you can clearly see. You see the lowering of the clouds right in this region right here. Oh, he's making a U-turn there, but clearly you can see some of these storms are really getting intense for some of these areas. As obviously as it's becoming over the couple of night hours here, we could be definitely seeing something forming. What's up, Jesse? Derecho, question mark. Well, if I take a look right back here at the radar, it does seem like it has more of that derecho type here. It's a very, very strong type of, wind front, really. So the wind is really going to come with the storm as it continues to push off over here to the east. As these storms continue to push off to the east, so like if we, over the next couple of hours for Chicago, if it really holds up like this, we're going to see possible 70 to 80 mile an hour wind gust with these storms. So even though, and also, it has those little spin ups in the line, so definitely a possible derecho could definitely be, not ruled out from this, but I would definitely say we're seeing a lot of that derecho characteristics with that storm right now. So, heading back right now, actually over to Freddie here, it seems. Whoopsies. Back over to Freddie on Severe Studios here, we can clearly see, he's driving through some rain right now. Not a lot of storms, or he's driving through the outside of the storm right now. So he's outside of the storm on the western part of the storm. So on the outside of the storm right now. So he is not exactly in the storm. So that is at least some type of good news right there. And then we're going to continue to pay attention to some of these tornadoes that we're going to watch, though, because these tornadoes are, keep spinning up in several areas, but at least it's not as bad as it was earlier here. So tornado warning still continues over here. This is north of Aurora over here. We can see the velocity signature. This velocity signature is not looking the best here, but head over here in Davenport. So it does seem like this is where our possible storm is sitting in, right in this region right here. A little bit off to the most southern part of the tornado warning here. This could be possibly heading right for McNabb. So if you are in this area, please be making sure you are staying safe and getting into your safe shelter. Same with this down here with this storm. There is still a tornado possible when it comes down over here to Aurora. Very strong winds are definitely anticipated with this storm, and you can clearly see that with the blue. The blue is definitely a very, very strong storm here. And let me actually try to figure out how strong this winds are heading into the city. Seems like having a little. So right now, some of these winds are reaching up to 60 to 70 miles an hour, actually heading right into the city here, possibly even higher up, according to the radar, possibly reaching up to 80 miles an hour as well. So definitely want to pay attention to this, because if you live in Aurora, we need to keep an eye out on that, because very, very big winds. And definitely if you have anything that's loose outside, and actually let me pull up this really quickly here. Take a look at this. Freddie right now is actually in the Walmart parking lot, and there's some damage actually from the storm here. Lots of wind came through, and it seems like it knocked over a couple of wood. It seems like the outside of Walmart here, where you can definitely see a little bit of debris on the road here in the parking lot. A little bit of debris as it comes to some of these storms. So this definitely could be rolling out a derecho, Jesse. If you're still watching, this is definitely most likely a derecho because we could definitely see. And look at that. He's showing off one of those areas right there where one of the cart holders or whatever you call them was definitely all bent up. So this was definitely a very, very big storm, and he's in the outer side of the storm on where the storm has already left that area, looking at some of the damage. So we'll get back to him here. Thank you so much to Freddie and to severestudios.com if you want to take a look at their website. But taking a look right now, heading just west of Chicago. Still seeing very, very strong storms continuing to push off over here to the west of Chicago, as these storms are going to continue to still push off over here to the east. We're going to continue to pay attention to that very, very closely, as we're going to continue to pay attention to some of these strong storms, winds, and all of that. The winds are going to continue to possibly be up to 70 to 80 mile an hour winds here. But also with this tornado warning, still continuing to see a couple of spin ups. I would say this one really right there is my main focus here, and that will eventually cross over Interstate 90 just over here in the next couple of probably the next 10 to 15 minutes. We could be seeing that cross over Interstate 90. So a little bit to be paying attention to as we're continuing to watch some of these storms, as we continue to watch some of these storms as we're going on throughout the rest of the night here. And as we're continuing to pay attention to some of these storms, we're going to continue to watch some of these storms continue to push over here to Chicago, even though Chicago had some of these storms throughout yesterday. So we're going to keep an eye out on that. Aurora, right now, you're dealing with some major, major storms. Continuing on right now. I'm actually going right through the metro area here of Aurora, continuing to watch that very closely. As we're reaching up to possible 80 mile an hour winds. So wanted to keep an eye out on this storm very, very closely here, because I think that's one of our biggest concerns here. Hold on, I have like 13 things open here at once. I'm trying to get you guys the best information here, but definitely a lot going on right now. So if you're driving right now on I-74, please be making sure you are staying safe as you are driving, especially as we're reaching into the nighttime hours. We want to keep an eye out on that very, very closely. Going to keep an eye out on that very, very closely here. Let me take a look here back at this. So taking a look here right now back at Nick on severestudios.com right now, you can clearly seeing a little bit of, big clouds, dark clouds right over here, obviously, as it's heading into the next couple of hours. Very, very big question as we're continuing to pay attention to this over the next couple of hours. And we're going to keep an eye out on some of that as we continue to pay attention to some of these very closely here. See if I can head into maybe this right now. So tracking several, we have a brand new tornado warning right now, and this is actually pretty close to the Chicago area. Probably a couple, 50 miles out. We'll take a look here in a second. Tornado warning on the ground right now, or, not a tornado on the ground, but a tornado warning active currently right now as we are paying attention to it. As we do have a potentially dangerous storm right now headed possibly for western part of Chicago. We want to continue to watch this right now, as we could be seeing a potential tornado with a tight rotation. Let's see. Yep, there it is. So this is probably going to be our biggest storm we want to pay attention to. Very, very tight rotation trying to form up right now. Continues to move off to the east. So this is going to head right for the suburbs of Chicago here. In the next couple of minutes, or in the next couple, maybe 30 minutes from now, we're going to possibly see Chicago possibly under a tornado warning here in probably the next hour, or a severe thunderstorm warning here. So, if the storm doesn't weaken down, we could be seeing definitely a possible tornado warning here for western Chicago. Continuing to pay attention to these storms, man. I mean, Chicago just got some of this stuff yesterday, so it's a little bit interesting to be paying attention to. And we are continuing to see some debris. As it continues, as this big derecho type looking storm, definitely a possible derecho. after seeing all this damage. Definitely, as they continue to push off to the east here, we're definitely continuing to watch some damage right now in several areas that have reached up to 80-mile-an-hour winds in some of these areas. But we're continuing to pay attention to the velocity signature right here for this storm right here that could be potentially headed right for the Chicago area. This could be something to be paying attention to, as this storm is going to be pushing off to the east here. So definitely, if you are in western Chicago and you live in the suburbs, we need to be keeping an eye out on some of these storms right now. So I want to keep an eye out on that very, very closely here. This is definitely a derecho that could be really putting out some damage here, as we're going to continue to watch these storms continue to just ramp up over the next couple of hours here with the wind potentially. The tornado threat will start to go down as we go on throughout the next couple of hours. But definitely going to keep an eye out on some of these. Wind really is our biggest threat right now. Trying to look see if we can find someone here right now. Yeah, so definitely some big storms right now possibly headed for the Chicago area. So let's head into that future radar once again. As we're going to continue. We're going to see several storms continue on throughout the rest of the night here, continuing on into mostly Indiana right now, and actually heading into Missouri and Illinois. So heading into the next couple of hours here, let's head into 11 p.m. We're going to clearly see some big storms right now continuing on, obviously, in this area. So Chicago expecting some pretty big storms here in the next hour in the metro area. Trying to get everything out and ready, still continuing on. Oh, hold on, what's going on here? Oh, there we go. So, continuing to pay attention to the derecho. Continuing on. As we are paying attention to, right now, this storm, continuing to move off over here, heading into the next couple of hours, heading into the overnight hours, 1 a.m., we can clearly see some of the storms still continuing to possibly be severe, possibly putting into some little spin-ups over here in southern Michigan, heading into most of Indiana here, Illinois, and parts of Missouri. We could be seeing definitely something to be paying attention to overnight hours, as the overnight hours start to, really just deteriorate with the wind, I would say. I think this is going to become maybe more of a wind threat throughout the night. The tornado threat will go down. That is guaranteed over the next couple of hours here, really, as it won't be as in, it won't be in as favorable environment as it is now, but we definitely are going to be seeing something. So, a derecho is some very strong winds with a big line of storms. So a big line of thunderstorms that continues on. So as you clearly see, we have a big line of storms right here. That is a big derecho right here that reaches up to possibly 70+ mile-an-hour winds with this big line right here. So usually the wind continues on throughout majority of this line right here as the storm is continuing on. So that, that's why we're just seeing damage and from some of the storm chasers. So definitely something to be paying attention to. When a derecho is definitely coming for your area, could reach up to 70-80 mile-an-hour winds. So definitely like hurricane force winds. That is, that's what we're anticipating with derechos, and that's what we always see with some derechos. So want to keep an eye out. If you are definitely ever under a derecho, we want to obviously pay attention to that very, very closely here. So continue to pay attention to some of these storms right now, especially this specific one headed right now to the east for right now actually headed for western Chicago. So western Chicago is right now needing to be paying attention to the storm right now, as there is a rotation right now, signature right there. There's that signature rotation right here. The storms will be continuing to move off to the east, so we could be definitely seeing something here for Chicago here in the next couple of hours. So want to keep an eye out on some of these areas right now. There we go. Trying to. So continuing to pay attention to several areas right now. And definitely we're going to keep an eye out on several counties right now that we're going to keep an eye out on. Eric, let me get to you in 1 second. You said, what is Boone County looking like? Well, let's take a look here. Oh, I saw my drawing thing on the screen here. So right now, currently, so if we head down over here to, we have a brand new tornado warning just near Bloomington. Boone County in Kentucky. Is that what we're talking about right now? Boone County in Kentucky. Oh no, in Indiana. I feel like, yeah, there's one in Kentucky too. I know that there's one in Kentucky right now as well. So right outside Indianapolis, we can clearly see nothing is on the radar currently right now. Definitely to get prepared through tonight though, because we definitely, if we head into the future radar, we could definitely be seeing some very, very strong winds as we go on throughout the next couple of hours, heading into possibly reaching up to 1 to 2 a.m. Definitely Indianapolis region could be definitely seeing some very, very strong winds as we go on throughout the night here. In Illinois. Okay. Is there a bunch of Boone counties everywhere or something? It's my bad. But yeah, so hold on. Just give me 1 second. But heading into Illinois, we're going to continue to see several areas here that are going to really just see just a derecho type of storm that we're going to continue to pay attention to. And we're already seeing Bloomington actually possibly under a big storm or possible tornado warning here in the future, we're going to pay attention to very, very closely right now. So, oh, whoopsies, there we go. Boone County, which is all the way up here. So, trying to get back over here to my radar. So much going on at once here. So right up over here, we are seeing some very, very strong storms over here into the north. Just like what we're paying attention to, as it's going to continue to push off. Right up here, very, very strong storm. So obviously some winds of reaching up to possibly 80 miles an hour. 80, 70 mile an hour winds could be definitely seen with that. We've definitely already seen some damage. Earlier we saw a little bit at Walmart on the live video by a storm chaser. We saw a cart corral being crushed up against a pole. So definitely this has been a very, very rough storm here for a possible derecho. But now I actually want to get down over here to Bloomington. Bloomington needs to be taking, pretty close caution to this one, as we have possible Bloomington radar indicated this rotation right now. No tornado is on the ground, so that is at least some good news right now. But the velocity signature here, this is the same storm that went through Aurora over here. That was a tornadic storm. Now not seeing that, but the rotation is sitting right in this region right here. So maybe trying to wrap itself back up over here to push down over here to the southeast, it seems. So definitely if you're over here and you are driving on Interstate 74, this is just south of Interstate 74 by just a couple of miles. So if you're definitely driving on 74, you can definitely see a little bit of that rotation right now off of the interstate. So I'm going to continue to really just keep an eye out on that. So a couple of cities, man, we're going to keep an eye out on several areas here, because we got not just Bloomington now that we're keeping an eye out on Chicago. Storms are starting to get a little bit closer here to the western part of Chicago. So I want to keep an eye out on some of these areas right now. And let's just keep an eye out right now. There we go. Okay. So continue to pay attention to this. If you have any more questions, make sure to leave it down in the comments. I'll try to answer it to the best I possibly can. But right now we're continuing to watch this storm start to rumble all the way down over here into parts of Chicago, the western Chicago. The suburbs starting to start feeling it over here right now. Are going to be starting to feel it over here in the next couple of minutes, especially when we have these tornado warnings on the ground, or tornado warnings in this area right here. As you can clearly see, not too much of rotations anymore for this one that is right now west of Chicago. We do have one a little bit more off to the north of this one. We can see we do have a possibility of some possible rotation sitting right in there. Continues to push off to the east right now, as we're going to continue to pay attention to that. And I think we have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning right now. So a tornado is possible. Brand new severe thunderstorm warning has now just been activated here for the Chicago metro area. We have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning right now. And we have a brand new tornado warning that has now just popped up right now. And this is in the suburbs of Chicago right now are dealing with this storm. So right now we do actually have a possible tornado right now actually outside of the Chicago area. So let's keep an eye out on that right now. The velocity signature, there's that rotation right there. Get a better marker. Rotation sitting right in there. It seems like right over the airport, and possibly maybe some type of other rotation sitting right there. This is going to continue to move off, as right now Chicago's starting to get hammered with several areas possible of tornadoes. The tornado warnings just starting to form. So want to keep an eye out on several of these storms here. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them down below, as well as we're going to continue on throughout the night here, tracking the Chicago metro area especially, and same with the Bloomington area right now, as there is a tornado warning off to the west here of Bloomington. So want to keep an eye out on that right now over here off to the north. Heading back to the Bloomington storm right now. Radar indicated a rotation for the Bloomington tornado warning possible off to the west. The rotation, it seems like not the best for the velocity, but the rotation sitting about right in here. That is that rotation right now for the Bloomington area. So want to keep an eye out on this storm very, very closely, as it could be possibly heading right now for the Bloomington area. So if you are living in near Bloomington, and even though you're not in the tornado warning, please be starting to take cover and watch the storm very, very closely, as we're going to keep an eye out on that. Heading into Chicago, though, heading back into Chicago, we're going to keep an eye out on some of these tornado warnings that are going to continue right now. Several tornado warnings continuing on right now. You know, really outside of just Chicago. We're continuing to watch some of these storms right now, starting to ramp up outside of Chicago. Really, of course, it starts doing it right near the city. So we're hoping that it starts to weaken itself down a little bit in the next couple of hours. But I think Chicago, we're hoping that it does not continue to be a very, very dangerous storm as it continues to move through Chicago, at least a tornadic storm. Yesterday we had the tornadoes that continued on, but the gusty winds were really the biggest part of it for Chicago yesterday. So, but we're continuing to watch this storms right now to the west of Chicago. Now only 2 tornado warnings are active currently, but the velocity signatures on these storms right now continuing. This one off to the south is my main focus right now. We have a little bit of rotation there, possibly something right over Sugar Cove or Sugar Grove right now, and this is headed for some pretty big areas, pretty populated areas. So, as we go on throughout the couple of night hours, let's head back into the future radar here, because I think, we're going to keep an eye out on some of these storms as we go on throughout the rest of the night here. Heading over here to 8. There we go. So the future radar, how long would the storms in Chicago last? Probably around, well, I guess we'll talk about it right here in a second. So this is right now, if we head into around 11 p.m. So in the next hour, we could be definitely seeing right here. There's the storms probably most likely in the next hour for 11 o'clock. for the Chicago area. We want to keep an eye out on some of these areas right now. Whoopsies there. So if you really live in the suburbs right now for Chicago, you live in the northern part of Chicago, really getting hammered with several storms right now. You can clearly see that with the pink and the blue in these areas right here. That could be definitely really, really strong hail. Not strong hail, but strong winds with possible tornadic storms right there in that area. And then if we continue on to move out through the next hour, we could definitely see it's going to continue on throughout probably about an hour and a half. We could be seeing some of these storms really start to hammer into the Chicago area. And then as we continue on right now throughout the rest of the night here, around 2 a.m., we're going to continue to see several storms over here in northern Missouri. And then really over here hitting Indianapolis, we're going to definitely see some storms continuing on in several parts of that area. Really in that, and really, these storms are really going to, really pack a punch with some possible 70-mile-an-hour wind still. And then we walk into about 4 a.m. early tomorrow morning. Detroit, you are getting some very, very strong storms right there in Detroit. You guys could be getting some very strong storms over here in the next couple of hours going on to early tomorrow at 4 a.m. And same thing, Indianapolis for the next, for several hours, going to be continuing to pay attention to very, very strong storms going through your area. So let's head back over here to the radar as we have several tornado warnings we want to get back to really quickly here. And even if you are under a severe thunderstorm warning, please be treating it like it is a tornado warning, because these strong winds that we're going to continue to pay attention to very closely here. So the velocity signature here for the northern one, not seeing really too much of rotation. It seems good to see something possibly right in this region over here, the northern part. Down here, we're seeing maybe something right now actually active in this tornado. And wow, breaking right now, a tornado warning has now been observed. We have an observed tornado right now, actually, just right in these two areas. We could potentially see something. So we have an observed tornado right now, actually on the ground west of Chicago. So let's head into the correlation coefficient. And there it is. So there is a debris ball right now for the storm right now. So we have a tornado on the ground. A debris ball is on the radar here for the correlation coefficient. So a potential dangerous situation. Interstate 88, we have a tornado on the ground right now about over your area. So if you live in this area to the east of this storm, if you live in this tornado warning box here, please be taking cover immediately. Right now we have a tornado warning on the ground. We have a very, very big issue. This is getting very intense, really, especially as it is approaching right now, as it is approaching Chicago. We're going to keep an eye out on this storm very, very closely here. Head back into the velocity. There it is. So this is the rotation right there. This is our tornado right here on the ground. It is going to be a little bit harder for the radars to see it because it is starting to turn nighttime, but definitely a big issue right now as we do have a tornado on the ground right now. As we do have a tornado actually on the ground right now, we're continuing to pay attention to this storm very closely as it's going to continue to push up possibly into Chicago. So if you live in Chicago, please be making sure, especially if you live in this box, Chicago needs to start preparing for some of these storms as well as we continue on throughout the night in the next couple of hours, as Chicago is expecting a possible tornado on the western part of Chicago. North Aurora over here is expecting a possible tornado on the ground. Just over Interstate 88, and then we could see a possible debris ball over here in the second rotation, because it does seem like there is two rotations on this. So really something to be paying attention to as we're watching several storms right now continue on over through several of these cities. We just got a brand new frame in. It does seem like we're seeing the storm moving off very quickly here. That tornado possibly is sitting right in there, heading back to the velocity signature. Seems like it's a little bit away from it, but very, very strong storm right now is continuing to push off to the east. We want to be careful for this storm very, very closely right now. Jordan, how's Aurora right now? Well, Aurora did get some pretty strong storms earlier. Now starting to weaken out, but if you are still in the eastern part of Aurora over here, definitely could be seeing some very, very strong storms continuing on right now. Very strong winds. I mean, we're continuing to see these strong winds continue. The good news is that there was no tornado warning for, the metro area for Aurora. It did skip you and is actually now headed for Bloomington. So that is at least some type of good news right there. But definitely starting to calm down a little bit right now in this area. Definitely with the winds, definitely had some very strong winds. And it could be a little bit windy for the next couple of probably for the next 30 minutes, even though the storm is all the way over here, we could definitely still be seeing some potential very strong winds here in the Aurora area, Jordan. So hope that answered your question there. Right now, yeah, definitely some power outages could be definitely anticipated, because we're definitely seeing a derecho right now for stretching all the way over here of northern Chicago all the way into Illinois. So definitely a lot of strong winds have definitely gone through this area. But the good news is that the worst of it is off to its southeast right now. So pretty quick moving storm that has moved out of the way. Now just a little bit of gusty winds now just leaving behind in Aurora. Hopefully they get the power back on there. But let's head back over here into this tornado warning that is observed right over here to the western part of Chicago. Very, very dangerous storm right now that we could be paying attention to. And as we're going to continue to pay attention to this storm very closely, let's take a look at the velocity. Seems like the velocity is taking a little bit. It's taking its itsy bitsy time over here to update itself here. But take a look at the correlation coefficient. So there it is. So it does seem like the tornado is over Oak Street right here, heading into North Aurora. Definitely a tornado is on the ground right here, just north of Interstate 88. So want to keep an eye out on this very closely. It does seem like it is starting to weaken a little bit. So that is at least some good news that it is starting to weaken. But now we're seeing even more. And we have a brand new tornado warning right now. And this one's on the ground actually currently right now. So continuing to pay attention to these storms very closely here as we head into the velocity signature. This one's near the radar site. So this could be a little bit of an interesting and harder situation to track here. This could be a little bit harder to track here with big change there. There it is. So there's that rotation with the tornado on the ground here. It seems like we're having a little bit of issues. Tornado is on the ground right now for these storms right now. Continuing to pay attention. This seems like it is right by Douglas Road over here, just east of Oswego. Pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. But Oswego, definitely could be paying attention to a tornado on the ground right now. Let's actually head over to the correlation coefficient. If we head into the correlation coefficient, yep. So there is that tornado on the ground right now. Clear signature of some possible rotation is still there, and some debris right now. So want to keep an eye out on this right now. As we're going to keep an eye out on this storm very, very closely as the storm continues to push off over here to the east. So as the storm continues to push off to the east, we're going to continue to see this storm, hopefully start to die down very quickly. So this is over or just east of Highway 34. So Highway 34, this is just east of Highway 34 right now. Wanting to keep an eye out on that very, very closely here. Over the next couple of frames, we'll definitely keep an eye out on that. Right now, going back down here to Bloomington. If we're heading back down here into Bloomington right now, keeping an eye out on some of this. Whoopsies, there we go. Heading into Bloomington right now, we're clearly starting to see that still radar indicated storm. But look at this. If we take a look at the severe thunderstorm warning, this is really, really bad. Destructive storm right now. 80-mile-an-hour winds here with the tornado possible, as there is a tornado warning in this severe thunderstorm warning. But there you go. 80-mile-an-hour winds are right now headed for the Bloomington area. So no matter what, even if you're not under a tornado warning for the Bloomington area, 80-mile-an-hour winds are expected for your area. So very, very strong storm for the Bloomington area here that we could be definitely anticipating in the next couple of, actually the next couple of minutes, because of how fast the storm is moving right now. So I want to keep an eye out on that very, very closely here as the storm continues to push off to the southeast, it seems. So Bloomington, if you're driving over Interstate 74, please be making sure you're taking cover and watching what is happening right now. So I want to keep an eye out on that for Bloomington right now. Having a little bit of issues here, it seems. There we go. So remember, if you have any questions, just leave it down in the comments down below or the chat. I will try to respond as best as I possibly can here, as there is very, very destructive winds right now. If you're just joining in, we have very destructive winds actually headed right now for the Bloomington area. Destructive storm here. We've already gotten reports of some damage that has happened from this derecho as it continues to push off over here to the east. So we're going to keep an eye out on this right now. So still, once again, also tracking, even though we're tracking the Bloomington storms, we're continuing to pay attention to Chicago, as in the next hour we're going to start to see some very, very dangerous storms over here start to approach the city. So even though we had some big storms yesterday, we're going to see even worse, some worse storms right now. Absolutely, Kyle. So keeping an eye out on several of these storms right now, as we're going to keep an eye out on this. Chicago really needs to start getting prepared, because Chicago could definitely get ready to have possible 70 to 80 mile an hour winds here. And Bloomington, good news, the tornado warning is gone for the area, but still 80 mile an hour winds are headed for your area. So I want to keep an eye out on that very, very closely here as we go on throughout the next couple of minutes. Bloomington getting ready to be hammered by some pretty gusty winds here. But let's head back over here to this velocity signature right now. Oh, Kyle, how's Westmount looking? Southwestern suburbs of Chicago. So if we take a look here at the southwestern part of Chicago, brand new tornado warning, and now it's an observed. So we do have an observed tornado warning actually headed into Chicago. So I do not know exactly if Westmount is in this area right here. I can try to look it up here. But definitely some big storms actually right now. Oh yeah, okay, so Westmount's about right in this region right here. So right now we do have some pretty strong storms right now headed over here. Probably in the next 30 minutes we can start seeing some of that gusty wind start to happen, but definitely seeing some rotation in the lines here of storms that we're continuing to pay attention to very closely, due to really just the derecho. This is a derecho that we're paying attention to as it continues to push off to the east. But definitely, if you Westmount, the southwestern part of Chicago, could definitely see probably around 70 to 80 mile an hour wind gust with these storms, but possible also a tornado, as we do have 2 observed tornadoes on the ground right now. So hope that answered your question, Kyle. Definitely over the next couple of probably the next 30 minutes we could be seeing some very dangerous winds start to approach the city area here. And we can clearly see the observed tornado right here on the ground. There's that rotation right over there. So it's continuing to pay attention to this, as this will probably most likely be heading for Boiling Brook right here. Bolingbrook, we want to keep an eye out on this area as the storm is going to continue to push off to the east. If we head over here to the correlation coefficient, a lot is going on right now in the correlation coefficient due to how close the radar is. But definitely some strong storms headed for that. But now we have a big issue because western Chicago is now under a tornado warning for an observed tornado. And it does seem like, I would say, the best rotation most likely sitting right in this region right over here, possible over Interstate 88 right now. And we have already gotten reports, though, if you do live in anywhere of Chicago or any path of these storms, that we have gotten already reports of lots of power outages that has continued, that we've continued to pay attention to as these storms continue to push through, as the wind is just so strong that the power is starting to be knocked out. And we're hoping the power won't be knocked out for too long, but just in case, make sure you have flashlights ready to go, especially since it is nighttime, and it could get a little bit scary nighttime when your power is out, that is for sure. But continuing to pay attention to several storms right now actually headed right for the Chicago area, and I had a feeling that we could be definitely seeing some big issues right now for the Chicago area, so I want to keep an eye out on that throughout the next couple of hours, definitely, because this could be an hour issue here for Chicago. So if you have any questions, make sure you just leave it down. I'll try to do the best I possibly can to answer them. But right now, brand new tornado warning has now just been issued for for the most southern part here. This does include Joliet here, Frankfurt. Right now, this could be definitely something to be paying attention to. Right now, so I want to keep an eye out on this. This is a tornado warning that is just south of Chicago. Right now we do have that tornado on the ground going through parts of the western suburbs here in Chicago, so it could be definitely something. We're seeing several tornado warnings start to pop up now around the Chicago area, so Chicago is really just being surrounded by some of these tornado warnings, which is starting to worry a lot of people here. Especially if you do live in the main city over here. We do have a tornado possibly on the ground right now. Well, according to the radar, and actually it has been observed right now on the ground. So want to keep an eye out, obviously, on that very, very closely here. So if you live in Chicago, please be making sure you are getting into your safe place right now, as these storms are continuing to push off to the east with some very, very strong winds, possibly up to 70, 80 mile an hour winds that we could be seeing. There we go. All right, so getting back into this, right now, because we're getting really into it. Right now, if you are just joining in, make sure if you have any questions, make sure just to leave it down here in the chat, and I will try to answer it to the best possibility I can. Right now, Chicago dealing with several tornado warnings. Bloomington getting hammered with some with some strong winds. I want to get back to that really quickly here. The one thing I will say over here is the good news is that the storm that's going through Bloomington is starting to seem like it's weakening a little bit with the more of a structure type for it, but definitely the winds are still continuing to definitely pose a big threat, obviously, to anyone that is in this severe thunderstorm warning, and that's why it says this is a destructive storm, 80 mile an hour wind. So definitely don't want to take that for consideration or anything. But Chicago's our main focus right now, as we do have several tornado warnings just surrounding the city here. And we do have that observed tornado right now. This one, I believe, and look at this. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly what I'm talking about. We have right now the northern part. Everyone really in Chicago is really just getting hammered with this because we're gonna have, you know, several tornadoes just really surrounding the city here of Chicago. I mean, I've never seen several tornado warnings just surround the Chicago area. So this is not looking good for Chicago. Let's take a look at some of these velocity signatures right now. So it does seem like this storm right here, if we take a look here right now at this storm, oopsies, head back into this radar really quickly here. If we head back into the velocity signature for, that's the radar indicated, the observed tornado, it does seem like we still have that a little bit more, still have a tight rotation, still in this area, right over Interstate 88, continuing to push off to the east, so kind of driving itself over Interstate 88. Continuing to pay attention to that, as this is headed right now for Chicago. Right now, this is pushing into Chicago right now. This could be definitely something to be paying attention to very, very closely, that we want to keep an eye out on right now. So please be, if you are in these areas, please be making sure you are keeping an eye out right now, as we are seeing definitely several storms, you know, being brought into the Chicago metro area. This is getting very, very intense here. Let's see here. Any storm tracers out there? Let me see if I can find any here. I'm not seeing any right now exactly, but want to keep an eye out on this storm really closely just in case right now. We'll get to that in a second. But look at this, man. You don't ever see this very often here, where we see several tornado warnings surrounding the city of Chicago. But right now we're going to continue to see this velocity signature. There is that one that is over here near Downers Grove. We have this storm right here. The rotation's starting to die down a little bit, so that is at least some type of good news here. This rotation is starting to die down, but now having a little bit of rotation sitting over here, it seems like this could be on, I don't know if that's a highway, state route, maybe state route 56 there. Seems like it would be Butterfield Road. We could be seeing another rotation starting to form right in there. Then we head down over here to this observed tornado warning here, having a little bit more of a harder time to find it due to how close it is to the radar. But definitely, if you are in a tornado warning in the Chicago area, please be making sure you are taking cover immediately. This is getting very intense very quickly here, as we are starting to see this big wind front continue to push off over here to the east. And this is a derecho, so this is causing damage in several cities here. We've already seen several cities be already having damage right now. We've already seen damage going on throughout a couple cities here. So it's getting very, very intense when it comes to some of these storms here. So the interstates, especially if you are driving on the interstates, please be making sure you are taking cover and getting prepared as these storms are heading right now for your area here. If we head over to the correlation coefficient, I don't know if there's, so if we head over to the correlation coefficient for this tornado warning specifically, the one that is right now over Butterfield, we do clearly see we have this area right here under State Route 56 over Interstate 88. There's a debris possible signature right there heading east here, and you can clearly see that velocity signature as well as right there. That is that velocity signature that we're paying attention to, and this will continue to move off to the east, still continuing to probably impact possible Interstate 88 and Interstate 355 in probably the next couple of minutes, as these storms are moving very, very quickly. So make sure, if you have any questions about any weather around the United States, I will let you know. I'll do the best I possibly can, but right now, tracking some very, very strong storms right now headed for the Chicago metro area. This is very, very dangerous storms right now that we want to keep an eye out on, as this is headed for the metro area right now. So if you do have any questions, please let me know. But right now, as we're continuing to watch this storm right here with an observed tornado over State Route 56, we're continuing to pay attention to that. Let me get this all out of the way there. There we go. Seeing now, it's starting to get, a little bit tight, but it might not be getting too tight. It might just start be getting a little bit more weaken, which would be great news as it heads into a more popular area, more populated area. So even if you're under a severe thunderstorm warning, please be taking cover and heading into a safe place. Don't go outdoors. Try not to be driving right now due to how strong and fierce these winds have already been. We've already seen several power outages continuing on right now. So I want to take this moment right now, actually head back into the future radar here to what we could be expecting as we go on throughout the rest of the night here. We're getting an update here. So here at around 11 p.m., this is what we could be anticipating over here at 11 p.m. We can clearly see Chicago getting hammered around 11 p.m. as well. So Chicago's definitely going to need to be paying attention to that as we continue on. Bloomington, you're already getting hit right now, so it seems a little bit delayed with that, but around maybe 1 a.m. here, Chicago, you'll start to get out of that storm right there, out of Chicago here, and then we'll start to see a little bit more here of this region right here that we want to keep an eye out on, because this could possibly spin up several storms right there in that, and then it will just continue on throughout tomorrow morning. We could be seeing several areas like start to go down in southern Illinois, southern Indiana, and heading into northern Missouri here. So want to keep an eye out on some of this very closely here. Let's see here. We do have a brand new tornado warning. Trying to bring that one up right now. Jack, you said Palatine. Let's see here. So for Palatine, up here, let's get back to that radar site really quickly here, Jack, for you. So Palatine right up here. The good news is you know you are under a tornado warning exactly right now. So if you are in Palatine and you are with Jack, pretty much, please be making sure you are getting into your safe space. Even though you know you don't have a tornado on the ground, we're still seeing very strong and gusty winds heading through that Palatine area. So the velocity signature will definitely bring a lot of heavy winds, especially even though when the storm leaves it, we could still be seeing some gusty winds. So a possible few power outages could be seen there for you, Jack. Definitely want to keep an eye out on that for you very closely. So please be making sure that you are watching that. But over in the next couple of hours, we could be seeing or probably in the next hour, 30 minutes, we could be definitely seeing some potential very gusty winds and strong storms in there. Bolingbrook, that is right here. So right now, Bolingbrook actually is in an observed tornado warning right now. So a very observed tornado warning right now. So I would say if you are in Bolingbrook, you need to take cover immediately here, as there is an observed tornado actually on the ground. So please be taking cover immediately right now if you are in Bolingbrook. Right now, Bolingbrook right now needs to be on the lookout here, as we do have a tornado heading east. So the storm is heading off to the east. So if you live in Bolingbrook here, please be making sure you are taking cover immediately, because there is a tornado on the ground. All I want to say is that it is a little bit harder to find here on the rotation due to how close it is to the radar. So please be making sure you're going to be keeping an eye out on that. And if you are right now actually still in Bolingbrook, you still got plenty of storms right now actually headed your area right now. So Champaign, Illinois. So you are all the way down there. So let me take a look. Let me head back down there really quickly here. Trying to figure out exactly where it is. So it's right over here in this area. So I know it's somewhere in this area. I'm trying to find it, because Bloomington, it's over here. It's somewhere in here, but definitely all I'm gonna say though is probably over the next couple of hours, for the more of the eastern part here of Illinois, that is probably when you'll start to see it. Probably around 12 to 1 a.m. That's probably when it will start to, it will probably start to get a little bit, or 12 a.m. It should be getting a little bit more active here. If it's just southeast of Bloomington, gusty winds are going to be reaching up to 70, 80 mile an hour wind gust with this storm down here. So definitely could be seeing that for Champaign. Anyways, so we want to keep an eye out on that. So please make sure, even if you're under a severe thunderstorm warning, that the winds are very, very, big, and really gusty winds are really going to be a big thing. Hannah, Bloomingdale. Here, let me head on over to your area over here for Bloomingdale. Oopsies there. So for the future radar, let me just get back right now here to the future radar, because it does seem like a little bit more here if we head into the next couple of hours. So this is expected here possibly around 1 a.m. We could be seeing this start heading into the western part here of Indiana. And over the next couple of, going into early tomorrow morning, we could see this heading right into Indianapolis. So definitely this area right here, Bloomingdale, definitely could probably see some storms going on through 12 to 2 a.m. Definitely could be starting to see that. Probably around more 1 and 2 for the worst part of the storm. Definitely want to keep an eye out on that very, very closely here. And then Chicago, let's head back over to Chicago, because now all of Chicago is now actually under a tornado warning. So let me head back over here for that, because now Chicago is all under a tornado warning here. So no matter what, right now we're going to continue to pay attention to this a little bit closely here as we continue in Chicago, because Chicago right now is going, as you can see, very, very crazy, because we have tornado warnings all over Chicago. Chicago's having a lot of tornado warnings. We did have observed tornado warnings. Now they're mostly all radar indicated, except for this one down to the south here. So really, if you are living in Chicago, please be making sure you're getting to your safe place, because the winds are going to be starting to come up very quickly here. Probably in the next probably in the next 30 minutes, we could be seeing it around 11 p.m. Eastern time here, 10 Central. We could be seeing a little bit of that. As all of these storms are going to push off to the east here. But now we actually do have a tornado actually on the ground for this tornado warning. So I'm going to get to that, because that is some new information here. And I would say it's right here. There's that tornado right there. The best signature that we could possibly see right there. Just east of Manhattan Road, it seems, and West North Street. Just right there. Just east of that. And is going to continue to move off. I believe this is moving off to the... moving east at 55. So this is moving east at 55 miles an hour. And if we head back over here to the correlation coefficient right now, having a little bit of issue of loading, I guess. So there's that. See if we can get the correlation coefficient to load. There it is. So it does seem like, since it does match up with the velocity, could be seeing a tornado actually on the ground right now. So as the tornado is continuing on the ground, we want to keep an eye out on that very, very closely, as this does continue to push off to the east. So, and you can kind of see that this could be where our tornado is. If we take a look at that red ball right there, that's where that tornado is currently right now, and that is continuing to push off to the east. So definitely, please be taking cover immediately for these storms right now. Please be keeping, very, very close attention right now to the radar and all of that right now. Kyle says winds are picking up in Westmount quickly. Yes, this storm is moving awfully quick. It's moving up to 55 to 60 mile an hour. Moving off to the east here around 60 miles an hour. So the storm is going to be definitely probably a big rainmaker for probably the next couple of hours, because it's not just, the big storm threat really is going to be coming in for probably around 30 to 45 minutes. And then really after that, we have a big rain threat possibly over the next couple of hours. So that's why we're starting to see some flash flood warnings actually starting to continue on right now in several areas here. But definitely power outages could be definitely something to be that could definitely be starting to happen here. But Chicago now starting to get hammered with some storms just outside of the metro area, starting to hit some of the suburbs here. Definitely with that. I think if let's see. Oh yeah, we do have that tornado warning still down here. This is, the crazy thing is this completely missed Aurora and then Bloomington. And now, it formed another tornado warning in between these two, and then a very interesting storm down here. Radar indicated this one though. Let's just talk about this one for a second. As this storm, these storms down here are reaching up to 80-mile-an-hour winds, so that could be something to be paying attention to if you live just southeast of Bloomington, Blue Ridge over here, Thomasboro, I-74 if you're driving on that. Definitely some very, very strong winds are headed towards your direction, but right now Chicago is the main focus, with every part of Chicago being really under a tornado warning here. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen something like this. This is definitely something that we don't usually see here, is that Chicago's all under a tornado warning. But want to keep an eye out on some of these storms as we continue on throughout the next couple of hours as well, because this is definitely going to be a couple hours problem here. It's definitely going to be a big problem as we go on. But make sure if you have any other questions, please leave it down in the chat box below, and I'll get to you as great as possible and hopefully answer your question. So keeping an eye out on some of these storms right now, as the Chicago metro area needs to start preparing for some very, very dangerous winds that could be definitely forming here in the next, or could be approaching the metro area here in the next couple of minutes. We've been tracking the storm since pretty much about an hour and a half ago here. We've been tracking this storm as it continued through Rockford. And we're continuing to watch it now as we still have that tornado warning that is observed on the ground right now. This is the velocity signature down here, and actually looking pretty tight here on that radar signature. So a little bit of a rotation could be sitting right there, just not too far from Highway 45. So if you are driving on Highway 45, please be taking cover, finding a nearby building to get into and taking cover immediately, because this storm is on the ground. This storm is on the ground now, so want to keep an eye out on that very closely here. If you are not, already been paying attention to some of these storms, we need to keep an eye out on some of these, because it's getting very intense here that we're keeping an eye out on very closely. But make sure, if you have any questions, I'll be trying to answer them as best as I possibly can here. But this is definitely something we want to keep an eye out on, as this storm is going to continue to push off to the east. So just south of Frankfort here, it will be going south of Frankfort, heading into Park Forest, and possible into Chicago Heights over here in the next couple of minutes here, as the storm is moving awfully quick. So now we're starting to see a little bit more. This tornado warning's gone right over here, but still all of Chicago is really under a tornado warning at the moment. Severe thunderstorm warnings continue on. Let's head on over here to Springfield and Decatur over here. Let's talk about them for a little bit. Decatur or Springfield, you're not under a tornado warning at the moment, or I mean a severe thunderstorm warning here at the moment, but definitely could be expecting some pretty big storms here with some possible strong winds. Same thing with Decatur, though. Half of you are kind of in that severe thunderstorm warning, but definitely some high winds could be in this area. So Springfield, Decatur, please be taking cover immediately and heading into an interior building, as we have those issues. And then Chicago, everyone really needs to be inside, because we have dangerous situations right now, as Chicago has you know, all of Chicago right now is actually under a tornado warning. So please be making sure, if you have any questions about if you live in Chicago or anything, please make sure if you have any questions, I will be trying to answer them to the best I can. Right now, as some very, very strong winds and very strong storms right now are headed into the Chicago metro area. So want to keep an eye out on that very, very closely here. So this is the Chicago metro area. Keeping an eye out on this as these storms are going to continue to push off to the east here. Want to keep an eye out on that very closely here. Let me try to see if I can get you guys in here. Naperville, right now. Naperville's actually getting some pretty strong. Did get a lot of wind. Definitely got a lot of wind earlier on, but now starting to get some heavier rain. Probably a little bit of strong winds as well. Not in a tornado warning anymore, so that is at least some good news. But definitely could have a flash flooding threat as we go on throughout the next couple of hours, though, as we're going to see some very, very strong issues here. Let me see if I can get Beverly Oak Lawn here. Trying to see if I can get that. Not sure exactly where that is, but I'll try to find it here in a second right now. But we actually do have two tornado warnings that we have brand new tornado warnings actually active here right now. And then is Berwyn or Stickney in the path of the tornadoes here? Well, currently right now, if we are, oh, is this it right here? Oh, Oak Lawn right here. I think this is the Oak Lawn for Caroline. If this is the area right here, Oak Lawn, you are right now in a tornado warning as still continuing on right now. Velocity signature is getting very, very interesting. Very high winds are going to continue on throughout the Chicago area. So please be making sure you are in your area right now, because it does seem like we're getting very, the storms are starting to approach. So the winds are going to start picking up very, very shortly here, and probably in the next couple of minutes here. We want to keep an eye out on that very closely right now. Heading into Lombard, Illinois here. So that's more out of the Chicago area. I'm learning where all these places are as well. So Lombard right here. Lombard is not under a warning, is under a severe thunderstorm warning here with a still tornado possible. Still could see a tornado possible. The velocity signature though, not showing too much wind, but definitely, I know there definitely could be some very, very gusty winds with your area, but definitely heavy amounts of rainfall could be falling over the next couple of hours, as you probably will be only expecting some of these storms for the next 30 to 45 minutes throughout your area here. Bloomington right now here, head down back over to Bloomington. Bloomington's starting to get back into the normal here. Starting to get back into the normal. Maybe a little bit of rain that could come after it, but definitely seeing some type of strong storms over here that did go by. Did see those storms go by. The good news is there's a tornado warning off to the east, and not much to be paying attention to right now, but definitely a little bit of winds that could be still concerning as we go on throughout the next couple of minutes, and a couple 30 minutes here. Still, that wind will still continue on. Heading over here into Hyde Park. Right now, Hyde Park is right in this region right here. So Natalia, right now, it does seem like Hyde Park is going to be getting some of that, big winds right now, and you are under a tornado warning, which is an observed tornado. So you want to take cover immediately here, as this could be heading towards your areas right now. So I want to keep an eye out on that. The radar is a little mixed up here, it seems. So I'm trying to figure out if there's a little bit of a better type of radar that we can take a look here at. But no matter what, you need to take cover immediately here, since you are under a tornado warning, especially since it is observed. Very, very strong winds are expected to come into your area right now. So please be making sure, over the next couple of minutes, we're going to start seeing some of those strong winds head into your area. over here in the next couple of minutes. So Natalia, please be making sure you're taking cover immediately, as you could be seeing some very, very strong storms heading into the next couple of minutes in your area. So once again, Chicago, I'm trying to get to everyone's city as best as I possibly can, or wherever you live right now. But Chicago right now starting to get those storms starting to approach parts of the metro area, the interstates. Was there a tornado on the ground near Berwyn? The only areas that had these tornadoes on the ground. Oh, whoopsies, there we go. Was there a tornado warning on the Berwyn? There was a tornado actually pretty near Berwyn. It was a tornado that was pretty slight. It did not last too long, but there was a tornado that was on the ground. It wasn't a very, very strong tornado here. I could probably head back into the velocity signature right now here. So head into the signature a little bit. Yeah, so it was a little too close to the radar, so it's a little bit more harder to see. But there was a tornado actually on the ground for near that area. There was a tornado on the ground. Garfield Ridge clearing area. Garfield Ridge. Trying to see where all these other places are as well, because I'm still learning. Garfield, Chicago, Garfield Ridge over here by Chicago off of Interstate 55. Right now, the storms are going right now actually over these areas right now. So the storms are continuing to have just really arrived, but definitely under a tornado warning. But your family and friends need to take cover immediately because there is a tornado actually on the ground. According to the National Weather Service, it has been observed, and it actually possible rotation just south here of Garfield Ridge. So we could be definitely seeing something right now. This could be definitely something to be paying attention to, as it is just south here of... It's really just south here of Garfield Ridge. Want to keep an eye out on that very, very closely as we're continuing to watch that. Heli jumper. Do you think South Chicago near the southeast side is in trouble? Let me take a look back at it once again here. South Chicago near the southeast. So this side right here of Chicago, really majority of all of South Chicago is really getting hammered by this big derecho here. But majority of the issue is that we're going to see these, possible storms that are starting to rotate here. We have over here in the Chicago Heights area, we have this rotation area right here. Right in that region right there, we have we're probably more likely that tornado is sitting right in there. But more of that southeastern part of Chicago is still going to get hammered by some very, very strong storms and winds. Absolutely, Timber. Yep, please make sure if you are under a tornado warning, please be taking shelter immediately right now. This is getting very intense over here. In the next couple of hours, we're going to continue seeing this. And we do actually have a brand new tornado warning down here. Just west of Urbana here. Let's get into this one really quickly. I know we've been paying attention to Chicago a lot here, so I'll get back to Chicago in a second. This is radar indicated here. See if I can head into maybe a better... Whoopsies. Sometimes always certain radars are a little bit interesting. What I will say is that the rotation is sitting probably more right in this region right here, and is pushing down to the southeast. So this could actually, if you live in Urbana, this could head right now to the southeast of you. So I want to keep an eye out on that very closely. As that storm definitely could be paying attention to some very, very gusty winds. And even though if you're under a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning, you're going to get some very, very strong winds, really, no matter regardless, because this is a very big derecho storm. We've already seen debris and damage actually in several places. Earlier, a storm chaser was seeing damage at Walmart. So definitely, and a lot of power outages have been reported as well here for these storms here. But continue to pay attention to some of these storms right now, especially for this southern part of Chicago right here. A tornado is on the ground right now, and same with this area heading into the metro area. So let me head back into that. still, it's not a very clear sight of any type of rotation in the tornado warning because the wind is also so strong that it's having a little bit more of a harder time. But the good news is they're not big hail. That's what I will say. Not big hail for these areas, but very, very strong winds actually now approaching the main Chicago area. So these interstates, Interstate 55, 290, really needs to be on the lookout for this one. And then O'Hare International Airport's getting hammered right now. And actually an observed tornado has been seen up here. So really, observed tornadoes have been going all around Chicago. And that is our biggest concern right now. And this tornado right here, possibly over the Interstate 294 going on to Interstate 90, just about over the Kennedy Expressway. So the Kennedy Expressway right now is dealing with a possible tornado actually on the ground here. Want to keep an eye out on that. And then, we're just continuing to see mostly tornadoes are going all around over here, going all around Chicago. And we have a brand new tornado warning actually over here to the east. So a lot of tornado warnings are going on right in one simple area. And the crazy thing is earlier we saw these a little bit more spread out. The tornado warnings were a little bit more spread out, but now we're seeing it a little bit more. You got a little bit more of a condensed area of where the tornado warnings are exactly now. So continuing to watch these areas very, very closely here as we go on throughout the couple of night. Let's get back to that future radar actually, so I can let you guys know. So I can let you guys know on where these storms are headed right now. Let me see. Hey, is Oak Park in Cook County, Illinois safe? Let's get back to that really quickly and get you that answer right now because a lot is going on right now. You said it was Oak Park. See here where Oak Park is exactly. I'm still trying to learn exactly where these places are as well, so just bear with me. Whoopsies. There we go. So Oak Park is just a little bit outside of Chicago. Oh, it's right here. Okay. So Oak Park right now actually is still under a tornado warning and observed tornado, so please making sure your brother is staying in his safe place right now, his tornado shelter. Right now the storms are continuing on and will continue to move on throughout the next probably hour. So yeah, probably over through the next hour, we could definitely be seeing some potential very strong winds going through this area, possible 60, 70 mile an hour winds. So, the question obviously is that we go on is, will people still have power? We've seen a lot of people not have power that we want to keep an eye out on. Wooddale, let's check on Wooddale here and see exactly. Wooddale. So Wooddale right now I know is somewhere up here exactly. I know Wooddale is somewhere up here, just bear with me here. But as you can clearly see, the Wooddale is actually probably more likely not getting too big of storms right now currently here. That is at least some good news. Wooddale is actually right in here. It's still getting some storms. It's starting to get more into not getting into the worst part. It's already gotten that worst part right now, as the worst part is off to your east in Wooddale. But right now, I would say you're still needing to be in your safe place due to how strong these storms are, even though you're not in a tornado warning. Please be in that severe, you are in that severe thunderstorm warning. So if you are in a severe thunderstorm warning, treat it like it's a tornado warning. That is the biggest thing that I would like to say today, is because, 80 mile an hour winds, 70 mile an hour winds is still very, very crazy to even see. So let's head back into where we were looking at exactly here into that future radar. Keep an eye out on some of this right now. So the future radar actually, so if we head in right now here into 11 p.m. Right now, which is in about 10 minutes Eastern time here, you could clearly see Chicago obviously getting those big storms here. I wouldn't believe any of this because that right now is a little bit later on. That's already passed. But heading into around 12 a.m., this is where we could be seeing a little bit more of the storms still continuing on the Chicago. More of the rainfall though. Gary could definitely be seeing some pretty big storms here, but really the wind is just going to continue on with this line. And then we continue to go over here into 1 a.m. and it does seem like by 1 a.m. we could potentially see some very, very strong storms heading over here into parts of northern and central Indiana here. Is staying in the apartment okay, or should he move into the basement? He definitely, I would say, even though the tornado warning is not necessarily in his area, there is some very, very strong winds. So I would definitely stay probably more in the interior wall. So more into the interior part of his apartment. Definitely right now, as there are some very strong winds, but definitely will most likely be over in probably the next 15 to 20 minutes right now. They are saying there is a tornado near Crestwood. Let's go back over here to the main radar really quickly here so I can get you guys updated. Let's see here. So Crestwood right now. So right now we do have a couple actually observed tornadoes that I want to keep an eye out on this. So right now the tornado warnings are still continuing on in several areas here. So really there's only 2 areas that have these, or 3 areas actually, 4 areas now that have these observed tornado warnings. So if you live in this one, the northern part, central Chicago, southern Chicago, these are observed tornadoes. So that means there is tornadoes near those areas that if you are in the box. So please be making sure you are taking cover, since there's really there's tornadoes apparently all over Chicago right now at the moment. How are we doing? Midway Airport, Chicago southwest side here. Midway Airport. Let's see where we're trying to take a look at that. I'm guessing this is going to be... Yep, here it is. So definitely getting some very, very strong storms still continuing with some very strong winds continuing on right now throughout throughout probably the next couple of 45-30 minutes here. We could be definitely seeing it because we have a whole nother batch of storms that are heading right now over here. So definitely could be seeing a lot near the airport. So definitely I would anticipate a lot of delays in Chicago as well. Is West Lawn okay? The strong winds are over here. Yes, so the West Lawn right now is actually continuing to get some very, very strong winds. Really, if you are just really in these areas right here specifically, man, I don't know why this radar keeps doing this. If you're really specifically in this area right here, this is where most of those strong winds are, reaching up to possibly 60-70 mile an hour winds. That is where we're seeing potentially dangerous winds knocking out power and possibly pushing down some trees and possibly causing a little bit of damage to several places. We've already seen some damage, as I said earlier, in Walmart. We've seen, we were seeing cart corrals being like crushed into poles, so it was a little bit interesting, and power outages are still continuing on right now. But Chicago still continuing on right now with a bunch of tornado warnings, and apparently all surrounded right now by a bunch of tornado warnings. So I want to continue on with that right now. Buffalo Grove here, so that is in northwestern type of Chicago here. Trying to figure out exactly where this is. I know it's in... Okay, so it's more like in this region right here. So right now, if we can... we're taking a look here at the radar for this nearby area because I'm trying to find exactly where. So Interstate 94 is over here. So I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in this region. I know that. But right now, actually, in Buffalo Grove, still some storms continuing on. Some strong winds probably starting to calm down a little bit more as more of the storms have continued off to the east here. But more now, it's just going to be a rain threat that we're going to keep an eye out on right now. So the heavy rain is going to continue to push off over here to the east. So even though that these storms are going to continue to really just, some of these storms are going to continue to push off to the east here, we're going to continue to see a lot of that rain to continue on to push off to the east. So that's going to cause lots of possible flash flooding over here in the next couple of hours for people that are in the path of these storms right now. So right now, tornado warnings still, several tornado warnings still active right now. Lakeview, let's figure out where Lakeview is here. The good thing is I'm actually learning, on where exactly all these places are. Lakeview, Illinois. So actually pretty just right over here. So Lakeview needs to take cover immediately here, as there is an observed tornado tag right now on, as there is a tornado on the ground. And actually, what I'm not trying to, this is definitely something to be paying attention to. So Lakeview, I see is up here. That is Lakeview. The rotation is right over here. It does seem like, so we could have seen a possible tornado actually go through Chicago. I mean, we could have seen a possible actual storm go right through Chicago here. Heading through the actual city, and that is a very, very interesting situation here, as we've had several tornado warnings already go throughout the city throughout today and past pretty much the past hour, really, that we've been seeing it. But Chicago really getting hammered. I would say the strongest rotations are sitting right in there. So continuing to pay attention to these storms right now, very, very closely here. So once again, Chicago getting hammered right now. West Loop is getting some pretty strong winds, I would anticipate right now, and very, very strong storms continuing on to continue to really just move off right now, because it's getting very intense. We're starting to see a lot of storms and wind start to right now just continue to push over into the Chicago area. The good news is it's probably going to last at most another 30 minutes here. That's probably the most that we'll probably see here for the next 30 minutes. So that is at least some type of good news that we're paying attention to. Majority of the storms pushing off to the east very, very quickly, as these storms are really moving at 55 miles an hour. So we're going to continue to watch that very, very closely here. Back to Hyde Park. Yes. So Hyde Park is down here, I believe. Yeah, so Hyde Park right now actually is still, according to the radar, still getting, right now is getting the beginning of this storm right now, Patricia. Continuing to watch this storm as it's continuing to push off into the open waters over there, but continuing to look at this right there, we see another active storm that is right behind it. So very, very strong winds are going to continue to move on through Hyde Park for probably the next couple of hours, or not the next couple of hours, the next couple of probably 15-20 minutes, probably through that time period right there. So really just continuing to pay attention to these storms very closely here. As we're continuing to watch these storms very closely. So make sure if you have any questions, as well as a place that you would like to know, I will try my best to get to it. The good news is that we're starting to see the downtown metro areas right now actually starting to not have any tornado warnings, as majority of those storms are currently now pushing out into the open water over here. So that is at least some good news, but the tornado warnings still continue down here to the south. So Gary and to the south, we're really watching these big tornado warnings as well. These are some pretty hefty tornado warnings here, pretty big storms that we're seeing right now. But these three tornado warnings right here are observed. These are observed tornadoes right now, actually on the ground, that we want to keep an eye out on really closely here. We take a look at the velocity signature. Take a look at this. So this could be a tornado right here on the ground, I would say. Whoopsies. So there we go. So there's that tornado warning that is gone now. I would say this is right now our strongest point of rotation, right here near Crown Point. So Crown Point, if you are in Crown Point and you are crossing over I-65, this storm is headed right for you with a very, very big spin on you. So we need to keep an eye out on this storm very, very closely here. And we'll get back to the future radar here in 1 second here to get you guys a little updated here on what we're paying attention to. Because, this isn't, we're going to continue to see a lot of storms overnight as well. But the good news is Chicago is not getting as hammered as more, but still getting some gusty winds here if you live on the coast here. Let's see here. Country Club Hills. Let's see. That is right over there. All right. All right. So, Jace, let me try to figure out where exactly that is. So it says that is in Chicago's right there. So it's right about in this region right down here, because East Chicago's right over there. Yep. So still learning these areas as well, guys. So I'm still learning these areas as well. So right now, the storm's starting to move out of your area, out of Country Club, out of the Country Club Hills area. It's starting to move out of your area. So wanted to keep an eye out on that very closely still as we're going to continue on. But the winds are still going to still be a little bit intense as it continues on throughout the next couple of hours. But majority of the is going to be the rainfall. We're going to start seeing some potentially dangerous some storms here, or some dangerous rainfall potentially pushing over here to the east, putting a lot of rainfall really on these open roads here that could definitely have a lot of flash flooding right now. So continuing to watch these storms very closely here. So if you have any questions on any place where you would like to know where the weather is going, or how it's going to be tomorrow, or anything like that, just let me know. Try to get to the best of it I can. Let's head back over here to the future radar right quick here. I know we're getting a little bit of updates here, and getting a brand new couple hours here in. So this is 11 p.m. right now. So this does seem pretty type accurate, kind of, except for maybe this Bloomington. I know it's not getting really storms as much anymore. It's just really getting rainfall. But heading in over here to 1 a.m., this is where we're starting to see a very, very big difference. The last couple frames we were saying a lot of big storms heading through this area region right here. But right now, we're still going to see a lot of storms over here around 1 a.m. in parts of southern Michigan, over here into northern Indiana. We want to keep an eye out on several places right there. And you can see that blue and pink. That's some very, very strong storms. Possible tornadoes still. That could still potentially happen over here in the next couple of hours. Could still see that. Then we head into the 4th and 5th hour right now. Heading into early tomorrow morning on 3 a.m. here. Detroit, you'll start seeing some of those storms here at 3 to 4 a.m. and pushing all the way into 5 a.m. And then Bloomington and Urbana, you guys have already gotten some storms as well today, and expecting to get some more. Same with Aurora over here. That's how we first started off with our storm tracking today. But yeah, so we're going to continue to watch these storms as they go on throughout the rest of the night. And we'll wait for some more updates here to come in as well throughout the next couple of hours here as we're waiting for the updates. So let's get back to this observed tornado warning, see if we have any clear observed. Oh, whoopsies, there we go. Yeah, so still seems like we do have a possible tornado still on the ground right now, crossing Interstate 65. This still is crossing east, it seems, but I want to go actually over here to the correlation coefficient, see if we see anything. Not seeing too much at all here, but I think maybe if I go like this and see if we can take a look at the last couple of frames here. So it might have, so if we take a look here at the last couple of frames, it seems like as we head into Crown Point, seems like we did have maybe a slight tornado actually on the ground right here, and then continues to push off over here to the east up to I-65. And then it's starting to, right now, this is what it looks like, starting to maybe dissipate a little bit, but still some debris is still being lofted up into the air. So a little bit still being paid attention to as we're going to continue on throughout the rest of the night here. We're going to pay attention. I'm going to stay with you for maybe the next hour or so here as we're going to start to see maybe this tornado threat starts to die down pretty quickly here. The tornado threat will start to die down, so that is at least some good news there. But no matter what, the winds are going to be really big and strong probably for the next couple of hours as we're going to... Where'd my pen thing go? I've lost... Hold on. I don't know what is going on right now, but right now we're going to currently see, we're still going to see lots and lots of wind to come through several other cities going on throughout tonight. So I'm going to keep an eye out on that as well. There it is. Okay. So going to keep an eye out on that. But taking a look at this right now, this is our big threat right here. It definitely, I will say, over the past couple of hours, it has weakened a pretty decent amount as it has continued to push over here to the east. The good news is I would say Chicago, right now you guys are starting to clear up here in this region right here off to the western part of Chicago. This area right here is starting to clear up. But if you live right here on the coast right here, you're still having some pretty big storms going through your guys' area. So I want to keep an eye out on that very closely right now. And actually, let's head down over here to Urbana, near to Urbana. So near Urbana over here, Urbana, you're actually getting some pretty big storms right now, or right now actually off your coast. So the good, or not off your coast, but off your little land over here. Keeping an eye out on some of these storms though, possibly bringing 70-mile-an-hour winds. The good news is once again that it's only not 80 miles an hour. It's 70-mile-an-hour winds that are still continuing, and we see a brand new severe thunderstorm warning right now east of Urbana here that we can continue to pay attention to very closely. Right now very closely. So continuing to pay attention to some of these storms as we continue to go on throughout the rest of the night here. We're going to continue watching some of these storms, especially as it gets closer into middle part of Indiana here and parts of northern as well as southern parts of Michigan. We're going to keep an eye out on several areas like that. So we're going to keep an eye out on several parts of these areas. So please be making sure that you are taking, pretty good cover here if you are in several parts of these areas of the United States that are being impacted right now with these storms, and especially because the flash flooding will be definitely a big factor after these storms as well. So please be making sure you're watching these storms very closely. And if you have any other questions, also make sure to just leave it down in the chat. Trying to answer as many questions as you guys have for anyone that wants a little forecast for your weather. Good news is for Chicago, starting to weaken down here with the storms here. For majority of that big city, we're really seeing it. I mean, even Chicago saw some storms yesterday with, a tornado warning, but who would have thought today that everyone was under a tornado warning? So, but the one thing I want to actually bring up really quickly here is if I bring up this radar right here, the one thing I want to bring up is that we've seen these storms are going to continue to push over here. So as these storms get out of the water here, it does seem like they're continuing to stay pretty strong, and we're going to continue to watch several of this continue to push off over here. So that's going to continue to make very, very big issues for several places. And as you can clearly see, we have this severe thunderstorm warning over here just north of South Bend. This is a tornado possible threat as well. So could we see a couple water spouts out here in the water? We absolutely could. So any possible water spouts or could come on land here that we want to keep an eye out on very, very closely. Very, very closely here that we're going to be keeping an eye out on. So since it's been a little bit since we've looked at exactly the tornado watch, let me pull that up really quickly here. Whoopsies. Take a look here. I'm going to get the tornado watch here for you. And look at that. So the red area is the tornado watch that we're currently looking at. So 2 hours, 50 minutes right now in this big red box right here. That's 2 hours, 50 minutes. The question is will they expand it into Indiana tomorrow as parts of maybe more southern Illinois and parts of northern Missouri? Possibly. We'll have to see. We can actually take a look here at the things really quickly. Let me turn this off really quick. Head into the outlook for today, or going into the rest of the night. Still seeing that moderate risk right now for Chicago and east of Davenport. So, but now the good news is that most of the storms are really off to the east and have started to really not be big of a problem now. But as you can clearly see, this is our big area right now that we want to keep an eye out on as we go on throughout the overnight hours. We could definitely be seeing some potential storms as we go on over here. Possible Fort Wayne, South Bend, Michigan City. Gary's still seeing that, and then possibly Indiana Indianapolis going into later tonight. Then we head into day 2 tomorrow. This is more of a little bit of a slight risk here, it seems. So heading into tomorrow, so very, very big difference, even though we're seeing a little bit different of a different type of scenario here on the future radar. New York stretching all the way over here into Ohio, and then over here in Nebraska through Kansas into parts of Oklahoma, having that slight risk here for a possibility of some severe weather, but not as big as obviously today, which is great news here, and very slight chances for several areas here, but very pretty good chances, I would say, of potential big storms to continue on with some gusty winds here. We have a brand new tornado warning actually right now. This does include Michigan City. So Michigan City right now is in this tornado warning, and you're probably wondering, if you live in Michigan City, you know, where's all the rain? Well, it's all off to your west, but the tornadic storm is headed right now for your direction, and this was an observed storm, but now is radar indicated for your guys' area. But the velocity signature still, I guess, having issues me pulling it up. See if I can pull it up here. We'll use this one really quickly here, but take a look at that. So there is your rotation sitting right in there, possibly 2 rotations. So you might have another rotation actually sitting right now under Highway 30, and then another rotation sitting possibly right over State Route 8. And now we just got a brand new update here on the radar, a little bit more of a broader type for the just one south of US 30. And then State Route 8, a very, very strong type of rotation where we could still see a possible tornado on the ground here. So if we head over to correlation coefficient, no correlation coefficient with this storm. So that is at least some great news right there, as we're continuing to watch that as it continues to push off to the east. So my question is obviously how bad are these storms really going to get once they emerge back onto land here? As they continue to push through east into Michigan. But I actually want to head back over here because this is interesting right here. Heading into Aurora over here. Look at this. We have, look at this, very, very strong storm, or very, very big storms trying to form itself back up against, heading right for Aurora possibly. So could be watching that very, very closely as it continues to move off to the southeast. So continuing to watch this very, very closely here. Longest live stream I've ever done. Oh, another severe thunderstorm warning has now just been active here for Logan Sport. And it does seem like if we head back over here, so getting really close to over here near some bigger cities as well, as we can see some very big storms still continuing on over here through Gary into the south. Continuing to watch some pretty big storms as well as we're continuing to watch this very closely. And these storms are going to continue to push off to the east. So I'm going to continue to watch this very closely. Cassidy, Woodridge. Let's see here. Woodridge in Illinois. Get back over here to some of these radars here. I would say Woodridge right now is actually just probably getting some heavy rain. Maybe some light rain at some points, but definitely a little bit of maybe gusty winds as well. A majority of the storms have already passed your area as well, about probably 30 minutes ago, I would say, so that's at least good, but definitely possible flash flooding could be potential right now as these storms continue, or these rainfall continues to push over here to the east. So continuing to watch these tornadoes right now. As these tornado warnings continuing right now, very large storm heading right now over Interstate 65. Very large amount of storm is still continuing on right now. Really just a big storm is just continuing to move off to the east here. The good news is that it does seem like the more southern part of the storm has started to weaken a lot more than it was earlier. So that is at least some type of good news right there. But this storm right here, this part of the northern part of the storm, staying pretty strong. It's still staying still pretty strong in this area, and then these storms over here off into the waters are staying a little bit more strong as well. And then this area right here is getting got pretty intense as well right now, as continuing to see some storms continue to move off. What's up, Bob? Chicago is clear, I would say, of the worst part of the storms here, as majority of those storms, and as you can clearly see, the storms are off to your east here of the Chicago. Now, majority of it will just be rainfall. This will be more of a rainfall type of threat here for Chicago. So, you know, even though the storms are way gone, we're going to continue to see possible flash flooding here over the next couple of hours as it continues on into Chicago. So definitely some flash flood warnings could and actually look, there's already a flash flood warning here for majority of for actually all of Chicago here for a flash flood warning. So Bob, make sure you're just staying off the roads and not driving too much at least, and just make sure to not get stuck in any flooded waters, because that is right now the biggest potential threat for Chicago. Indianapolis still got a couple of hours here until the storms start to reach Indianapolis. Still got a little bit here. Of course, Bob. So right now, continuing to pay attention to some of these tornadoes. Not as strong as the storms are right now currently, but still have this observed tornado warning right now. I do not necessarily, I mean, it's still a little bit more of a, still a little bit of strong of a rotation still continuing, but not watching as much here, as we could be seeing 2 possible rotations in this region right here. So I do want to thank everyone here for watching the stream tonight here. I want to say thank you for watching the stream tonight, and make sure to leave a like here, and if you want some more updates, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. And you can actually follow my X as well. You can follow my X. I'm always used to saying Twitter, but you can follow that as well, as it is in my description down below. And you can and you actually can go to my YouTube channel and click on the link. So make sure that you are I hope you enjoyed the live stream here. Hope you really enjoyed it, and I appreciate everyone for showing up here. Thank you so much for joining us, or joining me here today, and I hope you all have a great rest of your night and a great day tomorrow. And I will probably come out with a video update tomorrow on the latest weather information. So thank you for watching, and I hope the rest of you guys have a great night.